Hey everybody, good to see everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed the test runs that we gave about hour and a half ago. It's been a while since I've streamed anything, so we needed to make sure everything was working. I see several of the regulars from Brian, Hoodie, Cobra Commander's normal chats. And I appreciate you guys stopping in. As he put up on his site, he's not feeling real well. He's had a long couple of weeks. He is still having to work despite everything going on with the COVID-19 outbreak. So we decided to step in and help his recovery a little bit and just fill in this week. I felt it was important for you guys, you know, as a community. You've been very accepting of me and this program, and so keeping that Tuesday rotation was important. You know, we don't want to fall out of all of our regular habits because of what's going on in the world. It's not worth it. You know, at some point it's all going to pass. So we might as well keep going what we can keep going. So, good evening to everybody checking in. Sparkster, Doug Dello, Zathras, Cyclonus, and of course, Big Gay Dave, who I know caught all of our test runs from earlier. So thank you for not making fun, Big Gay Dave. That is appreciated. I'm not joking when I say I'm in the YouTube novice category. So I guess we'll get right into it. I don't have a ton planned. It's more just a get together. It's for you guys to come in and connect, and you know, whatever questions you've got for me about the hobby, action figures that came out a while ago, what's coming up for us this summer and fall. It's whatever, you know. My show, I don't have a ton of information as far as what's going on with Brian. I just know he's taking some time off. I don't ask questions, but you know, it's his deal. It's his questions to answer. I will, if you have questions about my co-hosts, Joe Colton and in a temporary basis Mark Weber, or a guest basis Mark Weber, I can pass those on to them. But you'll have to pardon me not answering for them if it's anything that's too terribly personal. So again, it's all really on limits. G.I. Joe, past, present, future, what's on Joe mind, whatever you guys want to talk about. Good evening to, I don't know how that's pronounced, so I'm just going to say MCDJ ACDC. Just spell it out. That's fine. It's the best I can do there, man. You can throw something in the... If that's got a weird pronunciation, throw that in the chat, and we'll try and get that done for you. Hey, Leah, what's going on with you? So, I've been making an attempt to, with everything... I got it, okay. With everything coming to a halt out there, I'm still having to go to work for my 4 10-hour days every week, just to try and get things organized around here. So as a result, it looks incredibly disorganized. So we're not going to do the tour of the room or anything. I've got some Joe stuff within reach. I've got my Tiger Force Flint that I bought a few weeks ago, but we're not doing the grand tour. Maybe at a later time. Doug asks, have I received my Snake Eyes yet? No, I have not. I'm not expecting to be one of the early ones. I did not get to ordering it until a little bit into the pre-order there. I figure, you know, with everything shutting down, I'll probably get mine sometime before April of next year. How about you guys? Has anybody out there gotten their snake eyes yet. Is anybody out there willing to pony up their snake eyes? I got $11. Cash. Cash, baby, cash. Oh, goodness. That's, I'm in the cable business, so they've determined us to be essential services or public good or something like that. So, it's, I'll be working, heading into the office until they tell me not to. But I feel incredibly fortunate. I spent a good chunk of last year out of work, so I am very thankful for the opportunity to not have interrupted checks again. That's the worst, and I really feel for you folks who are home, and feel worse for those of you who lost your jobs or got furloughed. It's terrible. This is an awful set of circumstances. We're doing our best. That's all we can do, right? We just try and keep things going as normally as they would otherwise, and you know, we'll get through it one day at a time. See, Doug, that's the way to go. Essential services, but able to work from home, that would be living the dream. But I have to admit to myself that if I didn't have some place to go, I would probably be a lot less productive. Look, if I was working from home, I would be a terrible employee. Yeah, that's all we can do. Just wait it out. Leah, that is tough to see. Sorry that you had to go through all that. Just lay low, keep yourself entertained, and like I said, just one day at a time. Just take it as best you can. Joe Holp asks, will What's on Joe Mind be at Joe Fest this summer? That is the plan. I know I will be there. I know Joe Colton will be there. She'll have a table there. I'm not doing a table at Joe Fest, because that would really be against the point of me being at Joe Fest. Like the last year at Joe Fest, I had a lot of fun running around the floor and you know, taking a few minutes with a number of different folks, getting sound bites, and if you're pinned to a table, it makes it really tough to do that. So yeah, Doug, that really is the thing. Like we're coming up. That's a June event, and you know, we're about to head into April here. So unless things turn around in a positive way relatively quickly, Joe Fest might not be on the calendar for too much longer. Hello to Matt Rubin. How are you? But yeah, Joe Colton will be there, so the show will at least be represented halfway at Joe Fest. Provided she remembers to plug the damn show, then we will be represented at Joe Fest. So again, thanks to everybody for stopping in. Appreciate your making this Tuesday tradition trek over to our station. I know it's a little bit different, but again, whatever we can do to help Brian out. He's been a great friend to our show and to our efforts. And I say not the royal hour, because I haven't always been the one in charge of producing content. So it's you know, it's a group effort at What's on Joe Mind, and Brian has been good to all of us. So it's no effort to give an hour back to him to help keep his tradition going here. It would be great to have Joe here. If there was a way to get these, like to have 2 channels stream. I know she has her own YouTube channel too, but there's no real way to link up the 2 of them that I'm aware of. That's not to say that it doesn't exist. I'm really a novice with video stuff. So we will look into that for a future effort, certainly. But I wouldn't say Joe Colton is just here to be a target or be a butt of jokes. The lady could take care of herself, and if we cross a line, she will punch us in the throat, despite the fact that I often laugh off that threat. It's more just me trying to deal with the reality of the situation, that at some day I will get punched in the throat. Okay, so Zathras61 says, Mike, tell us some favorite figures and vehicles. Very first figure is still one of my favorites. The first one I got back in 1982 was Stalker. And he's still easily in my top 5 of guys. He's a great character. Love that he got to remain a central figure in the mythos in just about all of its forms. I know people like to say that he wasn't in the movies, but yeah, he was really ripcord in the movies. So Stalker's one of my favorites. Also from '82, my early favorite for the first several years of the vintage line there was Flash. Hi, Jeff. Sorry about that. We had to test things out a little while ago. And my one bit of commissioned art actually came from Hoodie. I bought his Flash picture that he sold last year to help pay for his Joe Fest booth. And man's got good line work. He really is a talented artist. Doesn't give himself enough credit in that regard. And of course, lately, as we got into the second part of G.I. Joe from the 80s, Beachhead was a favorite. He's the guy who I try to collect now. He's kind of #1 by a hair. Flash is kind of a 1A. I have 9 Beachheads from 1986 sitting on my shelf right up here off camera. I think I've maybe only got maybe 1 or 2 less than that of Flash from '83. So I've got Beach Party '86 and Flash Mob '83 going on at various parts of my collection. As far as vehicles go, I don't know. I'm not a huge vehicle guy. I guess I like the Cobra stuff better generally with vehicles. I got a ton of HISS tanks, both retro and modern. I have too many HISS tanks. I used to have them. It was the one thing I had on display when I lived with two buddies after college, and it was the one thing that was in the common area was the HISS tanks. And there would be days where I would have them just organized and out on the carpet and in formations and stuff, and just to bother them, mostly to bother the roommates. But they thought it was cool, so it kind of blew up on me. And but that's also I used to tell the folks that I would take them out and recreate old episodes of Rat Patrol. And I think they were just impressed that I knew what Rat Patrol was. Look for more questions here. Possible Joe Retro O-line ring coming out. It's great. I heard the rumors of it too. I couldn't find anything to substantiate it, so we didn't report on it. But it'll be great. I'm kind of tired of getting the same thing over and over and over again, so I hope it's at least a little different. I hope it's just not an attempt to completely recreate 1984 or whatever all over again. We don't need that stuff again. At least give us something in different colors, or work some different parts around, or something. But there's no reason to redo it again. Matt Rubin says Brian doesn't give himself enough credit for a lot of things. That is absolutely true. He is truly one of the good ones. I've known him for, relatively speaking, I've been doing Joe collector stuff now for almost 20 years. Whether it was being involved with Coil Club or Coil Con or Joe Declassified or What's on Joe Mind or any number of projects in this community, and Brian is truly one of the good ones. So whatever you can do to support that guy, I'm all for it. Sparkster says, got to go with Night Raven, hands down. Night Raven's a great one. Mike, what are your thoughts on Declassified if it hasn't been answered yet? I like them. They're growing on me. You can actually check us out. We did some YouTube stuff on that. Mark and I did a bit on the Snake Eyes reveal. And then Mark, Joe, and I did another one after they did the preview with the 4 figures. And so you can certainly watch those. For the full ones, I do have to admit that we came off as being a little bit down on it in that one video, but if you go back and then just listen to our most recent audio episode, which just came out a couple days ago, episode 121, they've started to grow on me a little bit more. I think as we start seeing them more in real world models, as opposed to mock-ups, some of the color choices don't seem as bright or loud. I still think they're a little overly metallic, but it's okay. I mean, it's a different aesthetic. I am the one who's been saying all along, I didn't want these figures to be the same thing all over again. I didn't need, classic Duke in a new scale. Like, I have enough of those in 4-inch scale to cover that. Like, if you're going to do Duke again, at least make Duke a little bit different in its 6 inches, and that's great. And that's what they did. So I certainly like that they went for a different aesthetic. And out of the 4 of them that we've seen, I still say Snake Eyes is the best looking one. Duke is a close second. And Scarlet and Roadblock are bringing up the back half of that. But, again, they look a little better in real photos as opposed to the mock-ups that we got right out of the gate. So it'll be fun. I hope they get into it a little bit and we see at least some, get into some of the B-list and C-list characters. It would be nice to see your beachheads and your Cobra officers and your Rakondos and the guys like that who aren't maybe quite so popular get into this line and show off what these designers can do. I'm thinking that the Snake Eyes movie in October, knock on wood, October, would need to be pretty successful before we saw anything that gets us into the meat of 2021. But for all we know, this movie could wind up being awesome. It's hard to say. We haven't gotten any advanced pictures or anything like that. Really, just some shadowy shots of some sets, and I'm very hopeful for the Snake Eyes movie because a lot of G.I. Joe going forward hinges on that. Imagine a 6-inch crystal ball. That would be outstanding. Tony Jackson, sorry. Good that you made it despite being late. Go ahead, give us 10 push-ups and you'll be good. Zathras asks, Mike, do you collect vehicles in box? I got a couple, but not really, no. I tend to keep everything out of box. I think the only time I've kept stuff in boxes anymore is because I'm too chicken to open something that's 35 years old, and because the little cash register thing goes off in my head, because I don't have a ton of money, and if I could flip something like that for some ridiculous amount of money, I have to take that opportunity and try to better my setting. Okay, before anybody asks, this is Coke Zero Sugar cherry vanilla flavor. It is delightful. Since they've closed the fountain machines at the local gas station, the fact that I can get my favorite homebrew in bottle form is at least a decent secondary prize. Local vintage store has one of the Battle Force 2000 vehicles in box. It's probably best to leave that one in the box. Brr. Not a fan of Battle Force 2000. Didn't mind the figures, but those vehicles were crazy. Tony Jackson, if I do that, I won't be able to chat until 11 p.m. Come on, man. Come on, I'm in terrible shape. I could probably put out 10 push-ups in 4 hours. Come on. That's like you do a push-up and then you can go have a cookie. And then you can do another push-up and have 2 cookies and so on and so forth. It's exercise is fine. You just got to know what carrot to dangle in front of you, so to speak. I'll drink just about any flavor of Coke. I am a Coke drinker. I finally got myself to make the transition to the zero sugar because I was drinking too much Coca-Cola and I hurt my back. So my ability to exercise for a while just went out the door. And so I kept drinking all this sugar, and that brings us to this mass that we've accumulated over the last 5-6 years. So I had to do something to cut my sugar intake a little bit, and that switching to Coke Zero Sugar was it. That said, I will drink any of them. The vanilla, the cherry vanilla, the orange vanilla is okay. It's got a little bit of if I drink more of it, it'll probably grow on me, but it has a little bit of that Dayquil taste to it. I can't do Diet Coke. I don't know what's up with that. I know it's really, effectively, it's the same thing. I know, but it's a different mix, and it was, Sprite's the only, I can actually drink the regular clear sodas. They don't bother me as much. Can put some Beachhead sound bites on a loop to scare yourself. You know, it's the guy who did Beachhead was the guy who did Aquaman on Super Friends. So think about that the next time you're going through your cartoons. Prefer Diet Mountain Dew? No, I can't do Mountain Dew anymore. Mountain Dew is one of those where I drank it in college because you have to. I was one of those guys that did way too much in college, and so I would be staying awake pretty routinely for 25 and 30-hour stretches, and so Diet Coke was, or rather Mountain Dew was a pretty important part of my routine back then. But amazingly, once I got past the age of maybe 25, no more. Couldn't just unless I was at Taco Bell. If I'm at Taco Bell, Mountain Dew is okay. Hearing that Beachhead doesn't wear deodorant is scary enough. Overstated. It was mentioned once in the cartoon. Whatever. It makes sense. I mean, he's a naturalist. I'm sure he does plenty to keep himself from stinking, but Diet Dr. Pepper Cherry used to be my favorite. I'll do Diet Dr. Pepper sometimes. That's my backup when I'm just not in the mood for a Coke. I will go Diet Dr. Pepper. Been diabetic since babyhood, so yeah, no, I get that. That's what I'm trying to avoid. When I'm in shape, I run heavy. And it's if you go back to my grandparents, there's some of that in there that was caused by their weight gain. So I'm really trying to get some of this off in the next couple of years. And that's a big reason why, because I don't need to be wrestling with that problem in my 40s. That's too young to be dealing with serious medical problems. The average airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow. That's That's my brother, by the way. Everybody tuning in on in the group chat there. Rob Irizarry is my brother. If you've met me at a con, you've probably met him too. He is the pleasant one when you see us together. I tend to be more the sarcastic one, the loudmouth, the butthole, if you will. But yeah, so everybody say hi to Rob. I can't drink coffee either, no. I'm with you there on that, Tony. I drink a lot of tea when I'm at work. And some of the guys I work with, I work with a guy who's not from the U.S., and he asks me if I'm trying to be English. So I've from a few corners of the room, I have the nickname English. But it's not that I don't like coffee. I probably didn't speak that right. Coffee's okay. But if I drink a cup of coffee at 9 a.m., I still taste it at 4 p.m., and that's just too much. That's too much coffee at that point. I can't, the aftertaste is really what drives me nuts about coffee. When I'm actually drinking coffee, it's not so bad. It's okay. I sugar and cream it, and it tastes okay. Not my favorite, but it's all right. And certainly a jolt of caffeine and sugar on that one. But they say tea has more caffeine anyway, so maybe I don't know. I'm not getting into the science of it too much. There you go, Leah. Black tea, small knob of ginger, and a little milk. That's a zesty tea. Zathras, I agree. I do enjoy the smell of coffee. The smell of coffee is wonderful. Wonderful stuff. I just don't need to drink a whole lot of it. All right. How many? 4 push-ups, Tony. How many cookies? That's the important question. How many cookies? And I tell you what, AC/DC, good coffee will taste a little bit like it smells. Cyclonus, Rob is my older brother. He is 2 years older than I am. We have a younger brother. There is a brother behind us, and then a sister behind that. We set it up so that originally all 4 of us were going to make it to the last JoeCon. And then younger brother and sister canceled at the last minute and left us in the lurch for half of a hotel room. But then we got Mark Webber to room with us instead. So, good times. And now, largely because we got to know Mark Webber so well, Mark Webber guest hosts on the show. So, there's that. I apologize. I'm not looking in the camera a whole lot because I'm not used to it. I keep looking at the screen, so I'm looking below the camera. And I'm also looking at the live chat. So, see, Tony, that's doing push-ups right there. One cookie for the first, 7 for the second. Maybe that's a little bit more than I said, but I like your moxie. You got a good plan. You stick with that. So, does anybody have any other questions about G.I. Joe? Past, future, present, or perhaps my program, or anything else that's going on in the world. It's pretty much an Ask Me Anything. We did not go into this with a great detailed plan. We don't plan things at What's on Joe Mind. We show up and we wing them, because that's our strength. Wing. Where am I based out of? I am in St. Louis, so I am right in the middle of all of you by default. It's hard to be more in the middle of anything than you are in St. Louis. Sparkster asks, did I play the arcade game for the 90s? I did. I have played that one before. I have to say, out of the big group video games of the late 80s and early 90s, it's not one of the better ones. Like, it's okay. But it's not Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles is one of the greatest arcade games, period. Love that game. Remember, I grew up in Indianapolis. We went to Kings Island my freshman year of high school. It was kind of our class trip as a freshman. And it rained on us all day. We just got dumped on all day. And so me and my 3 friends, we played the Ninja Turtle game the entire day. And got all the way through it and then some. It was great amount of fun. Matt, hey, no problem, man. Usually I'm on your end of the chat, so I know how it goes. Don't sweat that. I'm usually leading the charge on down Tangent Street. Don't you worry about that one bit. Tony asks, are you excited for the Jada, J-A-D-A, I don't know what it's pronounced, die-cast Joe vehicles? I think they look great. I don't know if I'm excited for them. I'll probably wind up, if they sell them in packs of 3 or 4, I'll probably get 1 or 2 of them. But I'm not going to be a completist on those. There comes a point where I'm at where I've got so much stuff that it's starting to get to be clutter, and I don't need clutter. X-Men was another good one. X-Men was right up there with Ninja Turtles. That was a fantastic game. Leo, you're from Southern Indiana now, or just from it originally? X-Men, TMNT, and Avengers. Yeah, the Avengers one is kind of weak. I'm not a big fan of the Avengers one. Whereabouts in Kentucky, Zathras? I keep getting warnings that telling me to test the video resolution. My feeling on that is the blurrier I am, the better this is going. So you have to excuse me if I keep darting over to read stuff on the other end of the screen. Both, okay. Southern Indiana can be it's an interesting place. I've been to some really great places in Southern Indiana. I have been to some really terrible ones. So I am hoping that you are in the good one. Maybe you being there makes it the good one. Loved Iron Man as a kid, so it was my favorite. You know, I'm a big Cap guy and a big Hawkeye guy too, so it's tough to not like that game. But like, it's one of those where I used to put maybe spend $1 worth of quarters on it, and then I was just done. Simpsons one was okay. It was a little bit tougher to, I don't know, I guess suspend disbelief on that. You know, like the Simpsons is such a, in its own way, like, I know there's plenty of slapstick and sometimes violent things happen, but by and large, the humor of the Simpsons is either something bonking Homer on the head or it's verbal. So putting the Simpsons in a video game just didn't feel like the Simpsons. But Lexington, I've been to Lexington before. My friend Roger Taft used to have a store there. Now he's in Florida. Right between Indy and Louisville. Okay, so that's like a Bloomington type area then. People that drive in a circle. That's everywhere, my dear. I hate to break that to you. That is most places in the world, people driving in a circle. When I went to college, I went into, I lived around Indy growing up, and then I went to college in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of where I am right now. And that was all they did. Every Friday, they just get in their car and cruise. And there was one year. Well, I mean, I'll set it up. The college always got out before the high school did. We were always done with our school year before Cape Central. And so one year my friend Butch and I cruised with them. And Butch is he's a big old country boy from down that way. And he dressed up in a dress shirt and khakis and a sweater vest. He put a tie on. And I used to drive a minivan. And we went cruising. We got in the line of the cruisers and drove around Cape Girardeau. And at every stoplight, Butch would bust out the side of the van and start shaking everybody's hand and saying he was running for county comptroller. And he would start stumping about policy. Just wild stuff, you know, nothing actually sounding like what a... Because we didn't know what a county comptroller did at the time, and frankly, neither of us looked it up until afterwards, because we didn't want to spoil the illusion. But yeah, so that's my experience with cruising, was taking my friend Butch around to run a bogus political campaign. Leah, no problem, I understand. I don't want to say the exact city. Internet is weird sometimes. It's small. I wouldn't tell people I was from St. Louis if St. Louis wasn't a huge place. So believe me, I get it. And you know, being of the lady persuasion like you are, that makes it even smaller. So no sweat. Started something here with the arcades. I need a way to post pictures for everyone to see them. Put them on a slideshow on your channel. Well, there you go. Doug Dello, you're a Saluki. SIU. Your foot must hurt from kicking our butts in sports all those years. Sad thing is he won. I'm sure that there was a couple of write-in votes. Well, I was really swayed by this Butch Owens. I didn't see him on the ballot, though. Figure we got somebody in there. I mean, it's a high school kid, so how many of them are going to be voting? But you have to excuse me if I get to a fit of coughing somewhere along the line. It's March in Missouri, and we've had rain the last couple of days, so pollen isn't bad, but mold is out of control. And so right at a time when coughing and sniffling and sneezing instantly, you know, gets people giving you just a nasty amount of side eye. Well, it's happening at a time when I would normally be coughing and sniffling and sneezing. So it's a good time. I sneezed twice at work the other day, and there were apparently emails sent by people who were 30 feet away saying that they needed to send me home. Sorry. Yeah, I have. Anyways, maybe some day we'll vote in a dead person. Hey, Sparkster. Tell you what, man. Here in Missouri, we did that. It was a senator's election right around 2000. I wasn't living in Missouri at that point, but the popular candidate died in a small plane crash the week before the election, and he won. True story. Go look it up. And Tony Jackson can rack up a good score on Galaga. Bear with me, just getting caught up on the chat. You know, Bob's Dungeon, that's funny, though, because muscle memory stays with that stuff for a long, long time. I find myself playing Super Mario Brothers about once every 5 years, but when I go into it, it comes right back to me. Yeah, Rob, I think you're right. Mel Carnahan was the senator. And then his wife, they wound up giving the seat to his wife rather than have a runoff election, which makes even less sense to me. But apparently she served with distinction, so whatever. Again, it's Missouri. It's Missouri. Old Mel. Old kickback Mel. I didn't like Galaga myself. I preferred Space Invaders because it was a little easier. My 80s game of choice was absolutely Pac-Man. Or Miss Pac-Man. Whichever. Same game. Or I would play a ton of Bubble Bobble. It was all about Bubble Bobble. Cute little dinosaurs running around. Getting everything in bubbles and then popping them. Yeah. That's dealing a lot of cutesy, big-eyed death right there. That's your mixed message from video games right there. That fat, bald, bearded guy sure plays mean pinball. And I've just demonetized. So we never had an NES growing up. My mom was afraid they burned out the TV. Because our Atari burnt out our... We used to have one of those giant 400-pound televisions with the wood panel sides. And the Atari did burn that thing out. But there you go. That's what you get for having a 400-pound television. The G.I. Joe game on the old NES, I remember I played it once. I don't remember being terribly impressed by it. But what can you do, you know? I tended to play on the... I've never been much of a gamer, but when I do play games, they were usually PC games growing up. Now I have a PS3 that I still play NCAA College Football 2013 on, because they stopped making it after 14. But yeah, I'd have to look it up what the Atlantis game was called. I really don't remember. Doug Dello, I wish there was a bar and turntable built in. My grandparents did have the one with the turntable. And then that one busted out on them, but what can you do? Yeah, the NES was not the platform for a whole lot of licensed games. They tended to be kind of cheap and drecky ones. But man, today if they decided to put out a decent game today, it would be fun. Is anybody still playing the app game? Rise, what is it? War on Cobra. Anybody still playing that one? I'm trying to. We have a What's on Joe Mind group, and I think I still log into it every day, mostly for them. But it's a game's tough. You hit a point when, if you're not spending money actively on the game, it gets really tough to win battles. And that's not something I have any interest in doing right now. I have no desire to stretch my already thin budget for things I enjoy on micro purchases for a okay but kind of mediocre video game. It's fun when you can win once in a while. I don't want to take away from it, but like everybody that I come in contact with either has better luck with the box pulls than I do, because I tend to never get whatever the giveaway is. I tend to miss those entirely, and so, you know, everybody's got either a tomahawk or a mamba or something, and I have no air support whatsoever. And that makes the game very difficult to win. They probably want Hoodie to boot you by now. Well, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I run the group for our show, and I haven't booted anybody in a while. Since all this COVID-19 stuff went down, I just assume that people have better things to do, and will worry about people playing a silly G.I. Joe game when the time comes. The game that I still play, even after all this time, what I'm playing with here is a small hammer, just so everybody knows. It's not uncommon for me to fidget with this thing and just test my reflexes and hit myself in the knee while I'm doing things at the computer. Because I'm a baby and I need to do things with my hands, I guess. I need to watch the phrasing on that one. But Mike, what do I think the weirdest code name for a Joe figure is? Weirdest is... Because there's plenty of fairly inappropriate ones. I mean, Skidmark and Backblast probably have the most fun made of them. Stalker is one that hasn't aged particularly well. But weirdest... I don't know if weirdest... Like, there's nothing that's so far out of left field that... Because most of them either have something to do with their job or something to do with the character that was assigned to them on their file card. So I don't... Like, nothing really jumps out at me. Maybe you get into some of those later guys, like Gears or someone that they very clearly... Well, we've got this name, let's use that. Okay. But... That's smarts, Mike. What is that? I don't even remember what that's in reference to. Ice Cream Soldier. That's a good one. Yeah, that one was always probably the stretched. Scoop made sense because Scoop was essentially an investigator, and that's what investigators get. Is they, you know, breaking a big story is getting a scoop in newspaper terms. So Scoop was all right. Scoop made sense. Army building Ice Cream Soldier would be fine, because really it's not a bad mold, but man, they neon him up. They did a better job with him in the early 2000s in that Real American Hero collection. I think he was like a Mega Viper, or I forget what he was called. I'd have to look it up. But they put him in blue, and he worked so much better that way. 3 characters between Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Cops that share the same name. So, Shockwave, Bulletproof, And I don't remember I don't know the other one. Tony Jackson asks about Lobotomax. I was always a bigger fan of his twin, Zamatable. Shadow Viper, that's what he was called. Laser Viper was good. That was the one they gave the new head mold to. And he had like the vest thing going. It was almost like a Cobra version of Flash. I kind of dug those guys. Barricade. Yeah, it is a good one. Renegade Biker 24, it's going pretty good. Where you been? Where you been? See, now I don't know. You better give an answer to that before we end this. So, you got about 10.5 minutes. 10.5. Oh, Mirage would be one. Matt Rubin with the score. They didn't make a figure of Mirage in Cops because, God forbid, they make one of the lady types. But yeah, she was very much a character. So good call. Good call. Shockwave wasn't a Cops character. Of course not. Jerks. That'd be too easy. Favorite Transformer? Well, that's a good one to have. It's funny, those Transformers from the 80s. I had some of them, but it was tough to... Like when we were kids even, because you'd see them on the TV show, and they could do all these great things. And then you'd get the toys, and except for a couple of them, they couldn't do much of anything at all. They would transform into a car, and you could roll them, and then they would turn into a robot, and they could stand there. Hey, look, I can move my arms. It was tough to be a Transformers guy if you needed more than the gimmick. Yeah, Mainframe was in Cops, another one of the female characters, so there was no toy. So I guess Barricade would have been the only one that had toys made of all three versions. But yeah. Hey, might as well use those names, right? Jetfire was amazing when we were kids. That was one of the great Transformers toys. Shockwave was another one that was incredible. Optimus Prime was pretty good. Soundwave was pretty good. And then the list starts to drop off fairly precipitously after that. Bricks, yeah, it's. I didn't know that was the official term, but that's how I've referred to them for some time. Because it really was. The only ones I've kept from back then, I kept Trailbreaker. He was the first one I had. And I kept Sideswipe. He was my favorite. And I kept Cup. I got the Target Master version of Cup, who's terrible, but I loved Cup, so I held on to him. And I've kept Jetfire. And the rest of them have all been sold and scattered to the winds. Doug, no problem, baby. You hang out. We'll see you again, I'm sure. Megatron was terrible. Renegade Biker says, I am a housekeeper at the local VA hospital. You are doing God's work, Renegade Biker. Especially in the situation that we're in. So make sure you're taking care of yourself, and good job taking care of those folks. Cliff Jumper was my first. That's too bad. Those mini bots and mini cons, they were I mean, I always like to throw them out there for people that made fun of GoBots. because that's really all they were. They were just GoBots with a better sticker set. But I tell you, with Transformers, I have bought some of the more recent ones. The Siege line are, some of them are like, if Sideswipe in that line would look then like he looked now, I'd have been buying a lot more robots back in the day. And yes, I know I said robots. That's what we do on our show. We use the English pronunciation of robots. Sunstreaker was pretty cool in the old ones. He had the giant feet, though. Making a new Trailbreaker for Earthrise. Yeah, I saw that. It took them long enough, didn't it? All we need is... they've done Trailbreaker a couple times over the years, but he's not terribly popular, so... He's high up on my list for sentimental reasons, but they haven't done a ton of them because he's not terribly popular. I still have to. There's a couple of Siege ones that I want to get. I never found Ratchet. I know he was a Walgreens exclusive, but. Yes, Tony, that is the other part of it. It is the Dr. Zoidberg pronunciation. Hello, robots. Anything we can do like Dr. Zoidberg, that's a good thing. So we're coming down the home stretch. We are at 55 minutes. I guess we're at 56 minutes, but I won't hold you guys to it to the letter. So any last minute questions, comments, concerns, any questions you want to get along to my co-hosts, maybe anything you'd like to hear answered on our program on What's on Joe Mind. We will be recording again sometime in the near future. April's usually a big month for us because it's our birthday month, our anniversary month. This will be the 9th anniversary, 9th birthday of What's on Joe Mind. So we're looking forward to that. Good deal, Renegade Biker. Sparkster, I think I've seen that video of yours. And I wish I had space for new Omega Supreme. That would be awesome, but I certainly do not. I'm the only one left from that 9 year. I was kind of there at the beginning, and I was the substitute host right out of the gate. I made my first appearance back on episode 3, and so I'm the last one with any kind of a tether to the early days. But it's been fun. It's been a good run. Tony, thank you for your compliment there, and I will certainly pass along to Hoodie that you guys were asking about him. I wish there were more of you, but we did throw this together kind of late. I only approached him about doing this last night, and that's not a ton of time, not a ton of lead-in to do that. But anytime I get an idea on the weekends, that's when I work the most. I work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So anytime an idea hits me over the weekend, it either I get it tossed out there in a hurry, or it sits for too long and we have to scramble to make it up. Yeah, one of my buddies had Omega Supreme when I was a kid. He was a hoss. My friend and Omega Supreme, they were both hosses. So took up a lot of space. Made a lot of noise and walked very slowly. Yep. That's what happens when you grow up on Long Island. I see the new Skylinks. I saw pictures. I didn't see much. They had a pretty great presentation at Toy Fair. So I hope most of the stuff that we saw at Toy Fair isn't interrupted too much by what's going on in the world, especially in the East. But well, that about does it, guys. I appreciate everybody coming out and spending an hour and keeping the show going. Be sure to tell your friends. We might do this again. Again, it's a lot of it depends on whether or not Hoodie is feeling up to coming back into his normal role. We're certainly not going to compete with him on that, as like I said, he's been our fan and promoting our show on his show since before we knew what it was that he did. Like, we had no idea who that guy was, and you know, since I've gotten to know him in the last couple of years, he is really one of the solid guys in the G.I. Joe community, and I think we have all done a good job of getting behind him and his efforts and his videos and his channel. And I know that means a lot to him, and I know that you guys showing up tonight means a lot to him, because it means that showing up for his Tuesdays is really a thing that you want to continue. So I thank you all for coming by. I have got to sign off because I actually have to make a phone call about some upcoming shows that we're going to be doing with somebody who needs appointments to make phone calls. So, and I won't go too far into it. I will not. I'm not going to sit on that sort of thing for very long. As soon as I get something nailed down, I'll let everybody know what we're doing. But to everybody out there, thank you. Good night. Yo, Joe, and we'll talk to you again real soon.